Well, I've had this leak for years and I just gotta fix it. So I finally bit the bullet and cut a hole back behind the shower. So basically you can see I picked a stud here. Actually, I thought I was going along a stud here. I took a stud detector around here, tried to find the middle of the stud, and used a utility knife to cut through the middle there, and a little saw, and I ripped out the drywall. Here's the two tools I used to take out the old drywall. Most of it was done with a utility knife, and I made sure I had a stud finder to try to find the stud and go right down the middle of the stud so I'd have something to screw back on. And in the areas where it was just free hanging, I had to put a little wood backer. And of course this saw, this is a special saw, and they call it a drywall saw. So this is like going between the studs when you had to cut some of that out there, but the utility blade did most of the work. Okay, now it's time to repair the damage that we did here. Of course we got the stud right here that we can nail against, so there's no problem there. There's a little piece of wood up here. I kind of put a little pencil mark here so I can see where these things are. Then we got a small sideways stud here. I put some pencil marks so I know where those are. And but of course there was nothing to nail a screw against on this other side here. So I took a piece of wood, stuck it in here, and then put screws into the drywall to secure it here. See, I put a little 1.5 by 1.5 block here, nailed that in there, and then screwed this thing in here. And then this piece, I got it in here and secured against the drywall here and secured against the drywall there. So now I've got some pieces of wood to fully tie this thing all together. And now I just gotta cut some drywall, put it in here, put joint compound in the joints, texture it, and paint it, and then I'll be all done. Okay, I screwed some wallboard on there, 5/8 inch wallboard. And I didn't quite have enough, so I had to use some old stuff that was already pre-textured, but that might even work out nicer. And now we just gotta fill all the gaps and put texturing on there and paint it. Okay, we applied joint compound. I used a 10-inch trowel and applied the joint compound. And anyway, now we put some texturing on here, and then we'll paint it. Here's the wall texturing I used. I've always had best luck with the oil-based stuff. It seems to work a lot better than the water-based stuff for some reason. And supposedly this will cover 30 square feet, but in reality it's going to be a lot less than that, you know, maybe 6 or 10 square feet at the most. Okay, the wall is all completed. I just put the paint on there. I think it just dried a few minutes ago. The texturing on there. One thing about that texturing, boy, the oil-based texturing really did stink. And there's a few little imperfections here. Here's the old texture. And here's the new texture, and it's really hard to see a difference. There's a few little of these blobs that came up, and they're kind of peaky. So I kind of, after the texture was like about 4 or 5 minutes dry, I pressed on them to knock them down a little, because to make them a little flatter. Here's like the old texture. You kind of see how it's kind of like a flattened knockdown. And here's the new texture. And boy, that stuff really does stink. As far as using the spackle or the whatever you want to call it, joint compound, I probably could have put a little bit more down there. You know, you put it down. I used 2 coats, sanded it to where it's kind of flat, but it wasn't perfect, and paint doesn't cover anything. And here's the upper area, and here's the actual joint, and you just can't really see anything. And this is the actual joint. And let's go down the bottom piece. I didn't have any texturing on it at all. Kind of see like a little mark in here to where this is from the trowel. I used like a 10-inch trowel to spread it. And that could have been a little bit better, but I mean, from 2 feet away you can't really tell. And it worked out pretty well. And it's unfortunate. That's the only way I could tell where the plumbing leak was coming from, is to actually tear out the wall and actually see where it was coming from, because I tried everything.